Hi, everyone. So I am back with another interview today. I am really excited. It's taken us a little while, but I am here to interview Jake today. It's another person, a fellow person with Tourette syndrome. We're just going to kind of get to know his life, how he deals with it, and all that kinds of things. Jake, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so
My
excited
pleasure.
for you. I'm really excited to share your story and hear another person's life with Tourette syndrome. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Obviously, your name is Jake. Can you just share with me how old you are right now?
I'm 18 years old.
18? Okay. And then when did you start noticing, or when did your family start noticing, like your tics and situations like that?
So around the very end of fifth and the very beginning of sixth grade is when my tics really kicked in and that became noticeable as Tourette syndrome. When I was a younger kid, I had the occasional, the sniffing and the eye blinking. Those are the only two things. And, I always thought, it's just something I'm doing it. It's just like leg shaking, just doing it.
Mhm.
But around the end of fifth, beginning of sixth, it became more prominent when I developed this new tic where I would jerk my head back and arch my back forward, and it became really severe tics. So it got to the point where we didn't know what was going on, and eventually, so the beginning of sixth grade is predominantly when the tics started to show full force, and that's when I started to know that, oh, this could be Tourette syndrome. It was after the fact when I developed the head jerking tics, when I
Mhm.
was moving my head, and even my back would arch along with
Yeah.
the head movements. And so eventually I went to the doctors at the hospital, and they said, yeah, this sounds like a straight up case of Tourette syndrome. And that was after during end of fifth grade and up to sixth when this new tic started happening. When I was younger, even in preschool, really young, I would have the eye blinking, the sniffing, and no one knew what it was. I didn't know what it was. And there you go. And see, it just happens. And so I thought, oh, it's just like leg shaking. So we just went on with life. But as these new tics started to appear, that's when we kind of started to need to get a little bit of a doctor's assistance, whether it's medication or just other types of treatment.
Yeah. So are you on medication right now for them, or have you ever been on medication?
Yeah, I've been on medication since around seventh grade.
Okay, interesting. Because I know a lot of people obviously try at least to be on. A lot of people are on medication at least once with it. I was on it my senior year of high school, and then again all throughout college because my tics were just on overdrive when I was in college. I worked full time, went to school full time. I for some reason also planned a wedding, bought a house. I don't know why I did all of that to myself, but it was a lot going on. So
But
that's when I got back on medication. That was the longest that I was on it. um, I was on something called Topamax. It wasn't too bad.
oh, Pyramite, Topamax.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm currently on an extended release version of that. That's called Drakendi XR, and that's actually been a
Okay.
big lifesaver for me.
Okay. Have you had the I had tingly like fingers and toes when I was on it. Does that happen to you while you're on it?
Um, no, other side effects happen really predominantly. I could be wrong, could be different medication, but I'm pretty sure it's Drakendi. Is the memory issues. I have like
Okay.
short-term memory loss and issues
Oh
from
wow.
that as one of the main side effects. So that's really affected me over
Yeah,
the past couple of years with a
definitely.
lot of things. It's gotten a little worse, but that's why we're trying to right now kind of it's kind of like a balancing. You limit one medication, start doing the other, and it's a
Mhm.
whole game.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize because some people will just say, like, well, can't you just take something for it? And it's like, well, there's a list
No,
of
there's
other
not a
things.
specific medication for it. You gotta make a
Exactly.
cocktail of medications.
Yeah, and you got to play like the trial and error game. Like I was on one, I changed one because when I was in college, I kept increasing my medication because my doctor said I could increase it as I needed. 'Cause I started on a small dose, and I was like, all right, this isn't working. I'm having to increase it all the time. Let's try something else. And it gave me panic attacks, the new kind. And don't get me wrong, like I have anxiety attacks and panic attacks now, but not like this. I was having one like every day or every other day, and I'm like, this is not for me. Let's just go back to what we were doing. It was at least obviously, as you know, it doesn't make them go away completely, but it helped.
Yeah, it really assists. It's like a
Yes.
little, it's like pushing it, keeping you through the day.
Yeah.
Um, the panic attacks, I've had that before with a certain medication. It's like I'm sure just like you have had many other side effects compared to a lot of. other people who don't have Tourette's syndrome. It's because of the whole cocktail medication, medication cocktail. It really, there's a whole ton of things that can happen, and you just got to go for it.
Right. And that's exactly it. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. So I'm really glad that we brought that up. I haven't brought that part of it up in any of my interview videos yet. So thank you for sharing that with me. So when they get really bad, obviously you take medication and everything else to help you. So when you get really bad and all that, is there anything specifically that you do to like that works for you and that helps you?
So within the past year, I started this like deep breathing kind of, and it started actually a few years back when, and I took, I don't know why, but I didn't continue it. It started with a app on my phone a few years ago that it was like kind of like a breathing technique for 5 minutes, and it would help calm down, relieve the stress, muscles breathing, it helped. And because always stress builds up and it kind of my muscles tense up back here.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have this feature on my Apple Watch.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one. Yep. And well, for people who don't know, there's a certain button or the little service it provides, and you click it, and it's like 1 minute or however long you want to breathe. And breathe in with the vibrations and breathe out, and that's really helped. That's really what I've gone to in the moment. Also, there's like, let's just say I'm in work and I can't use a fidget
Mm-hmm.
or out with friends. That's when I'll just start transferring the tick. So like, start squeezing my fist and, maybe do a few sniffs and stuff.
Yeah. I use that app as well on the watch or whatever you want to call it. I use it sometimes when I'm at work. That's when I'll excuse myself to go to the bathroom or anything, something like that, and I'll put it on because I can be like alone. And when I get worked up and when I feel my anxiety and stuff, if I can get my mind to think of it early enough, that's when I'll use that as well. Because my mom used to always do that with me. When I was younger, if they got really, really bad, I would get worked up and I would cry. And so she would sit there and basically do what the app does, tell me to breathe in, breathe out, like, because I would forget to breathe essentially. And not, I guess not even necessarily forget. I was just so worked up that.
You didn't think of it. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
didn't go across your mind.
Right. And that's the thing too, because when I tick, I don't know about you, I know I've heard it the same from some people. A lot of the times when I tick, I'm holding my breath. Like I don't really take in and out breaths when I tick a lot, and so obviously it's hard to breathe and
Yeah,
it's hard to concentrate on that.
yeah. That only happens with me really when my back and my neck tick happens kind of the same time, and I'll start arching, and that's when I'll kind of like stop.
Yeah.
Not stop breathing, but just reduce the breathing level to where it's like and everything starts constricting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. The breathing and managing the breaths with the ticks, because I feel like sometimes too, I even will not feel like I know I tick with my breathing sometimes, but it gets incorporated a lot when I tick with my stomach. I always do that because I make little grunting sounds and everything else. So it can be difficult, obviously, as you know.
And nerve-wracking if you're in a public place, so that's why you hold it, a lot of times you hold it in, if I'm not mistaken. It could be different with you,
Right.
but you hold it in and later it comes out more aggressive, and then it could be painful or a different way.
Right, 100%. So with obviously you've known since you were younger that you had Tourette syndrome and that you had all these tics and everything. How are your friends and like your family and stuff with it? Are they really good with it? Are they supportive? Do you have a good support system?
Yeah, they're very supportive. My mother is my number one supporter. She's my number one fan. She's always there. She's always helped me in school. Um, she's always been there. During, let's just say, like, middle school. They've had in middle school, elementary school, and and like my previous school district, there was a lot of trouble with like the acceptance,
Yeah.
bullying, and other situations. But my mom has been my predominant person in my life that has really just been there all the time. And also myself learning over those years through interactions with friends, teachers, family, um, and even advice from others that I was able to educate people from things I've learned from organizations from NJCTS,
Mm-hmm.
PATSA Inc., Pennsylvania Tourette Syndrome Alliance, and I was able to advocate for myself, which really helped. And like went the past 3 years to the well, not went, but I was accepted to the Tim Howard Leadership Academy for Tourette syndrome.
Cool. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cool.
and at Rutgers in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So that has really provided a good set of skills and advanced my leadership to the point where
Nice.
I feel much more comfortable just talking about it with
Good.
everyone and addressing it before, let's just say, I just recently got, well, not recently, 6 months ago, got a new job,
Mhm.
and I talked about it, and I was able to just, handle that fine.
Good. That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. I'm a huge advocate of spreading awareness and being open about it. I know it's much harder than it sounds most of the time, and probably all the time, actually. But I think it really brings a sense of self acceptance. And I think that really helps in people's lives with Tourette syndrome. So I always try and not advise, but encourage people to be open and honest about it. So have you just now, like just over the past couple of years, started to start telling people about it a little bit more, or have you?
No, I've always, ever since, people knew ever since I was diagnosed back in sixth grade. But when I was afraid to tell people and often had trouble telling people through those years from like, sixth to eighth grade, it really changed in ninth grade, but sixth to eighth grade, I had trouble because the kids would make fun, mock my ticks,
Mhm.
and turn it into something that would have me hurt myself by ticking
Yeah.
or, the repercussions of that. So I'll do the normal things where, you hold it in, try not to let it happen, which, causes other things, stress, anxiety,
Right.
depression, blah, blah, blah. But,
Right.
and that's how also I learned to build up and stand up for myself, because I had to do that with kids in certain situations, and really advocate. And that's when I moved at the end of eighth grade. Started fresh here in Central Bucks School District, and many friends, or most friends, are always accepting. Um, all the teachers, great. The teachers are always, fire back. And my family, ever since sixth grade, has been there. I had to, at the beginning, just explain to them what this is, what it's going to require, and it took
Right.
some time for some people in my family to understand really what it is, but they
Yeah.
get it. They do.
Hmm. Good. I'm so happy to hear that because there are a lot of stories and a lot of horror stories, if you will, about kids' time and children, young adults in school. And so that's really, really awesome. That's obviously it can make such a big difference, especially with self acceptance and telling your story and everything. Like, so I think that's really, really awesome. You are open about it now, and you've been open about it, and you've had like success, I guess, with opening up about it and getting into the New Jersey uh, group.
Tourette
Sorry.
Syndrome Leadership Academy for
Yeah,
Tourette
sorry, it
Syndrome.
was
Yeah. I got
slipping
you.
my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
um, what would you give, like, if you had to give advice to somebody else with Tourette syndrome, either a child or maybe even somebody your age, like, what would your, like, advice to them be to, like, get through it or, just how to live with it and cope with it? Like, would you have any advice for anybody like that or that you would be talking to?
Yes. Find all your available resources. Like me, it's NJCTS and PATSA.
Mm-hmm.
PATSA also being Pennsylvania Tourette Syndrome Alliance, for those of you that don't know, and NJCTS being the New Jersey Center for Tourette Syndrome. Finding those two resources at the beginning has been very helpful, because that's how you get started with finding some doctors in your area. Just some information on medications and what's coming out, news, and then you also find out about the camps and things, how you can get together with others that have Tourette syndrome, and that will allow you to make some friends
Yes.
and be able to talk to people who have things in common with you, so you're not alone. Next step is, of course, finding the right medical professional for you,
Mm-hmm.
having that situation figured out. Like me, I've had to go to multiple doctors, quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, just had to fly to Florida for a
Oh,
doctor.
wow.
Yep. So it took me to Florida,
Wow.
but so hopefully I'll continue with that virtually. We'll see how that goes. But it's just everyone's path goes differently. Because it could go really good in school right off the bat, they'll be accepting,
Mm-hmm.
but if they're not, like in my case right off the bat a few years back, you just got to make sure, don't let them get to you. You got to let kids know when you feel it's appropriate, and at your pace and at your judgment, really.
Yeah.
Educate kids and make sure not to react. That has been a problem with myself. I've always
Yeah.
reacted and gotten really mad
Mm-hmm.
at those who have been cruel,
Yeah.
but that's what they want. And if you don't do it, then they know you're the stronger person for um, educating others, and then in the future helping others by becoming a person like myself. Hopefully right now I'm hoping I tell my friends I'm always there for them, and I tell other people if they need to talk to someone, because someone with Tourette syndrome, they can just have just need to talk to someone. So
Right.
it really ranges.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great advice for you to give somebody. And I think going off of that, I really do think that Tourette syndrome has made me more empathetic and sympathetic to people around me, especially like if I'm in public or something and you see somebody doing something that could be classified as weird or not normal. Um, my first thought isn't always like, why is that person being so weird? My first thought generally is like, well, maybe they have something wrong. And I put wrong in quotes as well with them, or maybe something's just different about them and it's just the way their body reacts. And I really think that helps, like, because then I can just move on. I'm not staring at that person. I'm giving them the empathy they don't realize in my mind. But I think it really does help a lot of us with stuff like that.
Yeah, self-confidence and things like that are key. It's you are the person that keeps yourself going.
Yeah.
It's not other people. What you do reflects off, bounces off other people, and then bounces back on you. So it's a little bit of a cycle there.
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned that you told the people that you work with and everything. Can you just let me know? Because a lot of people wonder about working with Tourette syndrome and everything else. What is it that you do, and does it affect your work or your coworkers or your relationship with anybody at your job?
So at my job, I work at an office supply store.
Mhm.
For predominantly for all the employees and management, fine, everything, but there's you're always gonna have a problem with one person.
Right, of
At
course.
the beginning, it was like, okay, whatever, just go with it. Now it's like, they're not, they get that I have tick movements and things, but they don't understand that people with Tourette syndrome often have OCD,
Yep.
ADHD,
Hmm.
comorbid conditions, and, they can even have side effects from medication. So, not being willing to accept that, or not knowing that because you didn't tell them, can hurt you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've been throughout the process kept them I've kept a very informative approach to
Hmm.
my employer. So everyone is known, management is known. I gave permission to tell people that necessary, but it just made it tough in my department with my supervisor, because it's when things don't get done right, or I get stressed out and start like and they get focused on one job, forget about the other,
Right.
or forget to do one little detail there. It's like, you're terrible, doing this wrong.
Hmm.
Why aren't you listening? You put it in there you put the paper in there the wrong way. You're doing this to defy us. No, it's
Right.
part of the whole it's part of the whole Tourette spectrum.
Hmm.
But with all the other employees and customers, it's like I pick. Um, Thankfully it's been relatively good. There's been a couple of comments that need
Hmm.
addressing, but we just go with it. Yeah, hold yourself up. You continue every day.
Yeah, I really like that answer. That actually leads me to one of my other questions as well. So you said you mentioned the comorbidities and everything. So I'm assuming you have some of them that come along with it. I know that I have anxiety and I have obsessive compulsive disorder. Do you share any of those besides OCD and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have the OCD, the generalized anxiety disorder,
Mm-hmm.
some depression, and those vary at times. Like, I'm sure with you and other Tourette syndrome patients, they vary at times with how your tics are doing,
Mm-hmm.
or what situation's going on currently. Like, if I get really happy right now because, let's just say, all sports come back on amid this COVID-19 outbreak, and everything it just stops. Everyone is
Right.
healthy. It's great.
Right.
I'll start taking because I'm really happy, and that's a
Yeah.
really I'm really expressing that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm sad, someone says something to me, I'll try not to react, but I may tick, and that could cause pain in my back,
Right.
neck, and also ongoing comorbid conditions.
Yeah,
That
and that's I tell people that a lot too because I people ask like what can increase them and what happens in that kind of situation. Sorry, my dog is
Your
starting to
dog, it's
come in
fine.
the
Keep
back.
going. It's fine.
Um, I try to let a lot of people know, like when I get even my excited and happy emotions can send my ticks into overdrive, and it really, for me, it's really sucked only because I'm like a child when I get excited about things. I get very, very excited, and it's hard for me to hide that excitement. And it's the same for really any other emotion. I'm kind of the definition of like I wear my heart on my sleeve, like whatever I'm feeling. Can't really hide it. So even when I get
People
excited,
know it. Yeah.
yeah, so exciting moments in my life. Like I used to dance, and so the day before dance recitals, I used to have to stop staying, or I had to stop going to school that day, and my mom would keep me home because it would just be too bad because I was so excited and I hated it. I'm like, it's ruining these exciting moments in my life. But again, it is what it is. Obviously, I make my way through it, but a lot of people don't realize, like, because some people ask me, like, well, what are you worried about? I'm like, I'm not worried. I'm just happy and excited about things, and it's just the way my body reacts. Please
Yeah.
share.
Your dog, you use that as like, even though obviously pets with kids with Tourette syndrome aren't identified as support animals, you just
Mhm.
get the pet and you're like, oh, lovey lovey. But my cat, I've kind of used him as something I can just like calm down with,
Mhm.
whether it's a breathing app or just having that pet to know that it's no matter what, that pet will love you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because you're there. So it's
Mhm.
like, is that the same with you, where your dog is kind of like a little support?
Yes, 100%, especially this one that has made her way into the background here. I have two dogs. This one's Izzy. She's my old girl. I've had her for a long time. She's 12 now. My younger dog is on a walk with my husband right now because she has a lot of built up energy because of being, well, we're all stuck in the house right now. But her especially, if I take a lot or if I get upset, I'm crying, anything like that, she'll get up and she'll come over to me. A lot of times, if I'm taking like with a part of the body that's like near her, she puts her paw on it, and it's cute and adorable, and I love her.
Huh.
But she was never trained as a therapy dog, but she 100% could have been, in my opinion. But obviously, I was selfish and I wanted her for myself. So she's my therapy dog, I think.
That's
So
why, yeah, that's why I recommend people with kids, like, teens like me, or people like you, or just anybody, even if you don't have Tourette syndrome, if you have problems, and not problems, like issues that can be resolved,
mhm.
um, get a pet. Get a pet that's
Yeah.
not, just going to be super crazy, but that there for you all the time.
Mhm.
My mom didn't want the cat. Didn't want the cat. I kept on it for 6 months. Got it for Christmas. Been here for 4 years, so it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pets are amazing. I would have more dogs if it was up to me. They're just me and my husband differ on opinions on that. So, no. Did you play sports, or do you play sports or anything else like that where it helps your tics as well? Because you
Help my
mentioned,
ticks, yes. So when I used to play sports, it did help my ticks, because you're focusing. It's just like driving in a way. Like it
mhm.
does vary for people, but from what I hear from most cases, when you drive and do sports, you're focused and
Mhm.
you're not ticking, and you're able to keep going at it. When I know when I played ice hockey up until 10th grade, I was able just to put it aside because I'm focused on the game. It's going
Right.
up to the game, even like an hour before the game. It's game done. I'm going for the
Mhm.
game. It's happening. As you get older, there's always just people that are just not like kids and teens will understand the ticks part, but there's always other things that the comorbid conditions, and
Yeah.
so that I there were some hits for that for the comorbid conditions with ice hockey, and just some things that happen. But you know what? It's just you work through it just like other situations, and it's just like you can take advice. Something happens with a friend group too. It's like you think about it. Well, let's just say you're doing a sport and such, and these group of kids are doing something, and you try to apply it to that situation too. Know what's working and keep doing it.
Right. No, I like that. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, dancing for me was my main sport of choice. I danced for a really long time, and like you said, it was that focus. It's my time in the studio or it's my time on the stage, and it was as if my tricks just
Looked
dissipated.
forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really, really awesome, and I think it's a good thing. I wanted to bring it up because it's what I also suggest to people, finding a sport or an instrument or something like that for them to focus on, because it can really be a good stress relief and a much needed one for a lot of us that are dealing with everything that comes along with Tourette syndrome. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so excited. I think a lot of people are going to connect with your story as well. And I think everybody's story is different. And there's always one person that can find those little bits and pieces that makes them feel like a little less alone. So I guarantee that your story will do that for somebody else. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry it took so long for us to.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm happy we got to do it.